The Antonov AN-225 Mriya stands as one of the greatest achievements in the history of aviation, a flying giant that captured the imagination of millions across the world. Built during the Cold War by the Antonov Design Bureau in the Soviet Union, this aircraft was not just another cargo transporter, it was a technological statement, a bold demonstration of what human engineering could accomplish when limits were ignored. The name, Mriya, means dream in Ukrainian, and that word perfectly defines what this aircraft represented. Everything about the AN-225 was larger than life: its wingspan, its engines, its purpose, and the emotion it inspired in everyone who saw it. The story of the Antonov AN-225 begins in the early 1980s when the Soviet Union needed a heavy-lift aircraft capable of carrying the Buran space shuttle and other massive rocket components. The engineers at Antonov had already created the AN-124 Ruslan, another large cargo aircraft, but the mission ahead demanded something even bigger. They extended the fuselage, added 2 more engines for a total of 6, and reinforced the wings and landing gear to handle unprecedented weight. When it took its first flight in December 1988, the AN-225 instantly became a legend. No other airplane in the world came close to its sheer size and strength. In terms of physical characteristics, the numbers alone are staggering. The Mriya was over 84 meters long, roughly the size of a football field, and had a wingspan of 88.4 meters, making it the largest aircraft ever built. It weighed about 285 tons empty and could take off weighing up to 640 tons, still a world record. It was powered by 6 massive Progress D18T turbofan engines, each producing more than 50,000 pounds of thrust. The plane's maximum speed reached about 850 kilometers per hour, and it could fly a distance of 15,400 kilometers without cargo. Fully loaded, its range was shorter, but that didn't matter. What made it extraordinary was not how far it could fly but what it could carry. The cargo bay of the Antonov AN-225 was a marvel of engineering. Its hold measured 43 meters in length, 6.4 meters in width, and 4.4 meters in height, large enough to fit entire locomotives, industrial turbines, or dozens of military vehicles. Its nose section lifted upward to open the front cargo door, allowing massive objects to be driven directly inside. The landing gear system, with 32 wheels, could kneel to make loading easier and distribute the enormous weight evenly across runways. Every detail of this aircraft was designed with precision and purpose, blending brute power with sophisticated aerodynamics. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the Buran space program was cancelled, and the AN-225 was stored in a hangar for several years. But in the 2000s, Antonov Airlines decided to revive it as part of their commercial cargo fleet. From that point on, the aircraft became famous not only among engineers and pilots but also among the general public. Whenever it landed at an airport, crowds gathered just to see it. It wasn't just a machine, it was a show. The roar of its engines, the slow and majestic taxiing, and the sheer scale of its wings made everyone feel small in its presence. The AN-225 carried some of the heaviest and most unusual cargoes in history. It transported 189-ton generators, massive mining equipment, trains, wind turbine blades, and even relief supplies to disaster-stricken areas. During the COVID-19 pandemic, it played a vital role in carrying medical supplies and protective gear across continents. Its massive capacity allowed entire shipments that would have required multiple smaller planes to be delivered in a single flight. Every mission was a demonstration of logistics at its finest, a perfect example of power meeting purpose. Pilots who flew the AN-225 often spoke with deep respect about the aircraft. Despite its size, it was surprisingly responsive in the air. The flight deck resembled that of the AN-124 but was even more complex, filled with rows of analog dials and switches that controlled its vast systems. The 6 engines required careful management, and the crew consisted of several specialists: 2 pilots, a flight engineer, and a loadmaster responsible for the delicate balance of cargo distribution. Flying the Mriya wasn't just a job, it was an honor. In February 2022, tragedy struck. During the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the only existing Antonov AN-225 was destroyed at Hostomel airport near Kyiv. As battles raged around the airport, the aircraft caught fire and was burned beyond repair. The world mourned the loss of the Mriya. Aviation enthusiasts, pilots, and ordinary people who had seen it fly felt as though a piece of history had vanished. Videos and photos of its charred remains circulated across the internet, and the news sparked outrage and sadness. The dream had fallen, but dreams do not die easily. Almost immediately after its destruction, Antonov announced plans to rebuild the AN-225 using surviving parts and modern technology. The company confirmed that many components of a second, unfinished AN-225 had been stored for years and could now be used to construct a new one. This promise ignited hope around the world that the legendary giant might rise again. For Ukraine, the Mriya was more than a plane, it was a national symbol of resilience, creativity, and strength. Rebuilding it became a message of defiance, that even in the face of destruction, the dream would live on. From a global perspective, the Antonov AN-225 represented much more than Soviet engineering. It embodied a universal human desire to break boundaries. Every person who saw it felt inspired, not because of its military or industrial use, but because it symbolized what humanity can achieve when it dares to dream big. Its presence at airshows and airports became a reminder that the sky is not the limit, it is only the beginning. Even though the AN-225 was unique, its legacy continues to influence modern aircraft design. Engineers study its structure to understand how such massive loads can be lifted safely. It proved that the combination of aerodynamic efficiency and brute force could achieve what seemed impossible. The experience gained from operating the Mriya contributed to the evolution of other heavy cargo aircraft and inspired aerospace companies worldwide. To this day, people remember the deep rumble of its engines and the shadow it cast across runways as it landed. Children who watched it from fences grew up to become pilots, engineers, or aviation enthusiasts, all inspired by that single moment when the sky seemed to bend under the weight of a dream. No other aircraft has managed to create such an emotional connection between machine and humanity. What made the AN-225 truly special was its personality. It was not sleek or delicate like a fighter jet. It was powerful, intimidating, and graceful at the same time. It didn't need to prove itself with speed, it proved itself with might. Watching it take off was like witnessing the Earth release one of its own mountains into the sky. Every lift-off was a display of courage and precision. The engines roared, the ground shook, and for a few seconds, it felt as if gravity itself hesitated to let it go. In a world obsessed with efficiency, where new aircraft are designed to be lighter, faster, and cheaper, the AN-225 stood apart as a monument to ambition. It wasn't built to be practical, it was built to be possible. That difference is what made it beautiful. The idea that engineers could come together, design something so enormous, and make it fly safely shows that there are no real limits to what human minds can create when united by a vision. The Mriya's story also mirrors the journey of its home country, Ukraine. Born in the Soviet era, forgotten after the collapse, revived with determination, and then destroyed in war, it reflects both tragedy and resilience. The effort to rebuild it now carries emotional weight far beyond aviation. It has become a global symbol of hope, reminding people everywhere that dreams can be rebuilt, no matter how badly they're damaged. If the new AN-225 ever takes flight again, it will not just be an aircraft, it will be a message to the entire world. It will tell us that innovation cannot be destroyed by conflict, that courage outlasts chaos, and that the human spirit, like the Mriya, is capable of rising again and again. Whether one sees it as a feat of engineering, a piece of history, or a source of inspiration, the Antonov AN-225 will always remain the greatest giant to have ever ruled the skies. Its legacy will continue to echo in the roar of every powerful engine, in the ambition